Today we're going to look at changing the strings on a steel string acoustic guitar. So all you really need is your guitar and a new set of strings. Now when you put the strings on, you will end up with some excess string at the end. Now we can just sort of tie it up into little loops to get it out of the way, but it's a bit tidier if you cut them off. So you can cut them off with wire cutters. It's not essential, but if you've got some wire cutters, I would recommend cutting off the excess string. And what you may also want to do is clean your guitar. And what I would normally use on the body, everything apart from the fretboard, I would use some Jim Dunlop spray wax and then a polishing cloth. Now this guitar has a matte finish, and I've checked the Seagull website. This is made by Seagull, and they don't recommend using wax. So for this particular guitar, I'm not going to use anything. I'm just going to wipe the dust off with a cloth. If I was changing the strings on a guitar with a high gloss finish, like all of my guitars have a high gloss finish, I'll be using some spray wax. So we're not going to use that today. What we are going to use is some fretboard conditioner. This is Jim Dunlop lemon oil, which we're just going to use on the fretboard. We're not going to put any on the body, just on the fretboard, and we just need a cloth to apply that with. Another thing that's useful is a string winder. Now you can tune the strings by hand, or to make it quicker, you can use a string winder. So it's not necessary, it's just a handy little tool. And the last thing you're going to need is some kind of tuner. So I have a clip-on tuner here. We need to get it in tune somehow. You can tune it another way. You can tune it by ear, you can tune it to the piano, maybe you have a tuning fork if you're really old school. But you know, most people are going to have a guitar tuner of some kind. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is take the old strings off. Now, if I hold the guitar kind of in the playing position, if I play the string, if I turn this clockwise, it lowers the string. If I turn it anti-clockwise, it tightens the string. I want to loosen the strings to take them off, so I'm going to turn all of these clockwise. Now, you can do it by hand, or you can do it with a string winder. It's quicker with a string winder. Listen to those strings, they're all very slack. Now, most acoustic guitars have 3 machine heads on this side and 3 on the other side. The ones on the other side turn the opposite way. So if I turn that one clockwise, it's actually making the string higher. So I'm going to turn it anti-clockwise. I just want to take all the tension out of the string. So now I've taken the tension out, it's safe to remove the strings. So I'm just going to cut them now. Wire cutters. Now, if you don't have any wire cutters, what you can do, you can just take the string off by hand. So if I just loosen this a bit more, there you go, so that's come off. It just takes a little bit longer. Now we need to get these pegs out. These are called the bridge pins. There's one for each string. They might be quite stiff. Let's just see. This one's come out okay. This one's a bit stiff. That one's come out. So 3 of them came out quite easily, and 3 of them are a bit stiff. If you have a string winder, it has a little notch in here, and you can use that to prise the peg out. So what you do is you just get the end of the peg, and you can pull it or prise it out. So if I go in here, you can see I've put that underneath, just using that to lever the peg out. Try it one way. If it doesn't work, try it the other way. You'll get it out. There we go. And make sure to take the ends of the string out, because otherwise they might fall inside your guitar. Then you've got to get them out. If you've got small hands, you can reach in. If you don't, like me, you might struggle to get them out. Next one. So again, I'm trying to prise that out here. That's not working. Go this way. It's not working. Go this way. That's worked. So just try it from all angles if you can't get it out. Now, sometimes you get one that's really stiff, and the plastic string winder isn't strong enough. So then you can use, if you have your wire cutters, very gently, being careful not to scratch your guitar, you can grab it under there and then just leverage, use leverage to just pull that out. There you go. Being very careful not to grip it too tight. We don't want to cut the peg, get rid of the old string, and then on the headstock end we can just unwrap these. Okay, so I have all the old strings here. I'm just going to tie them in a little knot just to get rid of them. Otherwise, when you put them in the bin, they just expand and come straight out again. There you go. And then the other ends. I'm going to put all this in a recycling bin. That's where I normally put them, and they've never ever complained. They always complain if I put the wrong thing in the bin, so I'm assuming it's fine. Okay, the next thing we need to do is just check and see if the nut and saddle are loose. Now, this is the saddle here. That's not coming out. Often they fall off. If they do, you need to put it back on the right way. The way you can normally tell is the high E string, the thick E string, which sits here. That part of the saddle will be higher than the part of the saddle where the thin E string sits. So if it does fall out, the high end of the saddle will go where the thick E string goes, and the lower end of the saddle will go where the thin E string goes. You may also have some kind of compensated saddle like this, and you'll see the B string sort of goes the other way. So that's another clue for this one. If you look at the nut, again on this guitar, the nut doesn't come out. On a lot of guitars, when you change the strings, the nut will just fall off. When you put it back on, same thing. We have 6 grooves here. The E string, the low E string, is a thicker groove than the small E string. So when you put it on, just remember the E string goes here, so the thick groove will go there where the E string goes. So the next step is to clean this guitar. Now, because of the matte finish, I can't use any wax or polish or anything, so I'm just going to dust the guitar. If it's very dirty, you can use a damp cloth first to get the dirt off, but this guitar is not that dirty, so I'm just going to give it a quick dust. Oh, there's a string on there. Give it a quick dust. So we clean the body of the guitar, we clean the headstock, we clean the back of the neck. The fretboard needs some conditioning. So here I have Jim Dunlop fretboard lemon oil, and it comes in a little applicator bottle. I'm just going to give it a shake. It's got a little felt top there, so I can just knock that on here. I'm getting some of this lemon oil on. So what this is going to do, it's going to break down any dirt, grease, dead skin, all that kind of stuff. Everything nasty that sticks to your fretboard, comes off your hands, airborne particles. It builds up over time. So what this helps to do is sort of break those down. So then when we wipe it off, it's going to take a lot of that dirt off with it. And then some of the lemon oil will remain on the fretboard, and it will actually absorb into the wood and help to condition that wood, stop it from getting too dry. With fretboards on acoustic guitars, they're generally not treated, which means that they're not varnished, they're not sealed, so the wood can dry out over time, particularly if you live in a colder country like the UK. You have the heating on in the winter, it can really dry out the wood in your guitar. So the fretboard, we need to condition it every now and then. Now you don't have to do this every single time you change your strings. I do, but you can do it, maybe once a year is enough. But I just really like to keep my fretboards in good condition. I like the way they look, and they're nicely conditioned. So I'm just going through the space between each pair of frets here, making sure to cover the whole area in this lemon oil. The next thing we need to do is just polish this off. So just use a soft cloth. This is one of Tommy Emmanuel's socks. So I'm just going to go in. Oops, there you go. The nut's fallen off now. So I think that nut was glued on. It's just come off. So when I put the strings on, I'm going to make sure I put that in the right place. I'm just going to leave it here for a sec. So I'm just going and really rubbing in that lemon oil, making sure I get into the corners by the frets as well. It's quite hard to get in there. And every now and then I'm just using a different part of the cloth to make sure I'm not just rubbing the dirt back on again. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is attach the strings to the bridge. going to take my strings here. Sometimes they'll be color coded. Sometimes they'll be in individual envelopes. These ones here are in individual envelopes, and they're numbered. Now, if you look on the back of the packet here, we've got, it tells you E first string is 11, B second string is a 15, G third is 22. So if you're not sure, you can have that by the side. And we're going to go high E string first. So high E string is number 11. Strings look like this normally. When you unwrap them, just be careful of two things. One, mind your eyes. It's like a pin, so be careful of your eyes. Second thing, don't tie any knots. So just do it gently. Make sure there's no knots in it. You can just run it through your hands like that. Make sure there's no knots in it. Attaching the strings to the bridge. So these are the bridge pins, and there's a groove in there, which is where the string needs to sit. So the ball end of the string, which is this part here, needs to sit here at the bottom of the bridge pin. Then the string sits in that groove. So I'm actually going to put that in position, push the string in, and then just before I put the peg in all the way, I'm just going to pull this to make sure I've got rid of any slack, and then you just sort of jam that in with your thumb. Okay, next string, 15 is the B string. So again, the string, just going to unravel that. Careful, no knots. And there's a quicker way of doing it. This time I'm just going to put the ball end there, and I'm actually going to poke it in the hole with the bridge pin, making sure the groove of the bridge pin is facing the string so that the string can sit inside that bridge pin. Next string, G, is a 22. Same thing here, just going to unravel that carefully. Take the string, put it just at the hole in the bridge there, making sure the groove on the bridge pin is facing the string, and then poke that ball end in while I'm gently pulling on the string to make sure I'm not putting any slack in there. D string is a 32. Carefully unravel that string. Ball end goes there. Make sure the groove is facing the string. Push it in, gently pulling that string to make sure you're pulling any slack through. A string, 42. E string is a 52. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is attach our strings to the headstock. Now, just turn this around so I can see the hole. And through the hole, and before I get that string on, I've got to put the nut back on. So the nut goes this way around with a thick groove, this side where the thick E string sits. It just sits in there, it's not glued in. There's a few different ways of doing this step. The way I do it is I pull the string all the way through, then I'm going to measure this distance, thumb and index finger, thumbs on the body of the guitar, fingers on the string, roughly that. Then at this end, I'm going to put a little bend in the string, like so. Now I've marked that string, see where the bend is. I'm going to wrap the string around the machine head from that bend. And when I've wrapped the string on, I want the string to coil from the bottom up to get the correct pressure on the string. So with my index finger, I'm holding the string down against the fretboard, against the headstock rather, and then I'm going to turn anti-clockwise. You can do it by hand, or you can do it with a string winder. I'm going to use a string winder. Just holding it with my index finger, get a little bit of slack out of the way. Keep going. When you start to feel a bit of tension in there, let's make sure two things. The string is in the groove. We're winding that from the bottom up, and then at this end we need to keep an eye on this bridge pin. It's actually coming out. So what I need to do now is keep my thumb on that bridge pin, keep enough pressure on it so it doesn't come out, and then continue to tune. So continuing to tighten the string up. And you get all sorts of noises here, don't worry about it. Just keep your thumb on that bridge pin, stop it popping out. It desperately wants to come out at the moment. Some guitars are worse than others for this. Okay, that feels something like an E. There we go. So if you take your thumb off the bridge pin there, it hasn't flown out. That's a good way of checking. Now if you're not sure how much to tighten it, get your tuner out. That should be an E. If I play that, the tuner's telling me it's an F, so I can actually come down a bit, get it in tune. Don't worry if it's not perfectly in tune for now. So if your nut did fall off, now's a good time just to check it's in the right place. We've got enough tension on there now that it's not going to fall off. But just make sure it's sitting correctly. Likewise, if your saddle came off and you put it back on, just make sure it's sitting correctly there. It's not in at a strange angle or anything like that. Now we just go through all the other strings, same procedure. So turn the machine head around, through the hole, pull the string all the way through. Thumb and index finger is your measure. Thumb goes on the neck, index finger up to there. Little notch in the string. Make sure that bridge pin doesn't come out, which it did. And then that little notch is going to sit up against the barrel of the machine head. My finger is going to hold that string down, push it down towards the headstock, and tightening anti-clockwise. Now when I get to this point, my bridge pin is coming out. Thumb on there, continue to tighten that. Yeah. If you see what's happened here, the A string is in the D string slot. That's no good. So to take a bit of tension out, move that into the correct slot and then tighten it up again. So all the steps I'm doing here, they're all reversible. So if you do something wrong, just loosen the string, fix whatever needs to be fixed, and then tighten it up again. So again, that was an E. A's there. That's an A. Now I'm going to let go of the bridge pin. If it doesn't come off when you tuned it to pitch, it's not going to come off, so that's fine. Okay, so these bridge pins, they do come out sometimes. So when you take your thumb off, just do it slowly so you can feel if it's coming out. If it is, then obviously try and jam it back in. Sometimes you can't get it back in, so you have to loosen the string and then jam it back in the hole and then tighten the string again. If it's really, really hard to hold with your thumb, which sometimes it is on some guitars, hold it with something else. So often I'll actually use a string winder and hold it down with that, because then it doesn't hurt your thumb. And then you can tighten it up and you can hold it a lot tighter then at this end. All depends on the guitar. Some guitars are really awkward. The bridge pins don't want to stay in. Other guitars, the hole is slightly too small and you can barely get the bridge pin in. Okay, next string, same thing. Turn that around until you can see the hole. Going through the hole, pull it all the way through. Use your thumb finger gauge again. Thumb on the fretboard, finger on the string. Little notch in the end. So now I've marked that string. I'm going to hold it down with my index finger against the headstock. Turn anti-clockwise to tighten it up. Keeping an eye on that bridge pin while I'm doing it. See if it's coming out. There you go, just starting to move now, so I'm maybe going to get a little bit more tension in the string. Just move that into the D string slot, tighten up a little bit more. And now I'm going to switch, put my thumb on there, push it back in again, and then continue to tighten the string. Yeah, so that's roughly a D. E, A, D. You can tap the A string, 5th fret should sound the same. It's a D. And I'm gently going to release my thumb. Ooh, slipped a little bit there, but it's okay, it's not coming out. G string. Now the other machine heads on the other side turn the other way to tighten up. So one thing that people get wrong and when they're restringing acoustic guitars is they tune it the wrong way. So this part of the machine head here is called the barrel, and inside of the barrel is towards the center of the headstock. So when you wind a string on, the string should be on the inside of the barrel. So you can see this one, the string is on the inside of the barrel. This one, the string is on the inside of the barrel. I'll show you it at the end in close up. This is on the inside of the barrel. So for the G string, turn that around so I can see what's going on. See the hole, through the hole, pull it all the way through. Use my thumb finger gauge, measured it to about there. Little notch in the string. Keep an eye on that bridge pin, which is coming out. Now these strings go the other way, so as I'm facing it, I'm going to turn this clockwise to tighten the string. I'm holding that string with my index finger so that it winds from the bottom up. The bridge pin's coming out there. The string's in the wrong groove, so the string's now in the G nut slot. That's coming out. Just put that back in. Tighten up a little bit more. I'm going to hold that bridge pin in, continue to tighten the G string. I'm just kind of using my ear here, but you can use your tuner. I just can hear that's roughly E, A, D. Oh, D's gone a bit flat. G, too low. Do this with a tuner if you're not sure about, if you can't hear the notes. Okay, I think it's roughly a G. I'm going to release the tension here with my thumb gently. It's okay, didn't come off. B string. I'm just going to turn that around. I can see the hole. Bridge pin's coming out already. I'm going to do the same thing, use my thumb finger gauge. There you go. Little notch in there. Hold the string down across to the fretboard. Check the bridge pins in. Just checking everything as you go. The thing, things as you tighten up the string, things move. Sometimes things end up in the wrong place. So you need to adjust it before it gets too tight. If you forget and you end up with something in the wrong place, just loosen the string, put it back where it should be, and then tighten it up again. So just constantly keeping an eye on these little things. And this guitar got quite a narrow nut and a small headstock. There's not much space to work here. So it's getting quite tight now, so I'm going to hold the bridge pin, continue to listen. It's too high. Should be there. One string left, high E string. As we turn this around so I can see the hole, through the hole, pull it all the way through. Thumb finger gauge, thumb on the fretboard, finger on the string. Little notch in the string there, just bent the string. Hold the string down to the fretboard, to the headstock, sorry, with your index finger. Check that's in position. Tighten the string, this time clockwise. As you feel a bit of tension in the string, get that thumb on the bridge pin. It's a good idea to make sure your strings are not tangled up as well. You haven't accidentally tied one string to another by accident. That's a B, let's come up to an E, roughly. Okay, now I can let go of this. So now I've got all 6 strings on. Now I need to tune it properly. So I've just clipped my tuner on the end here. I'm just going to tune these strings. While I'm tuning them up to pitch, I'm just going to keep my thumb on the relevant bridge pin. So E, D sharp at the moment, that's an E. A string is G sharp. I want A. C sharp should be D. F sharp has to be G. A sharp needs to be B. And E, that's a D sharp. E. Okay, I haven't tuned it perfectly yet because I know that the strings are going to slip. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to stretch my strings. You do this by, you just pull the string. So I normally hold it in the nut slot to stop it falling out of the nut slot. Pull the string, pulling it away from the body there. Do the same with all the strings. So don't worry about these bridge pins. If they haven't fallen out by now, they're not going to fall out. They're locked in. But I don't want the strings to move around in the nut slot. So literally just grabbing the string, pulling it away from the body. Now normally I sit down with my guitar when I do this, but it's just easier to show you laying on the table. Normally I would be holding my guitar like this and pulling it like so. Much easier. Okay, and then from there, the E strings went down to D. Just tune up again. And this time we're going to stretch the strings one at a time. Get it perfectly in tune. Stretch the string. It's gone a little bit flat. Tune it up. Stretch the string. It's okay. It's got a tiny bit flat. And you keep doing this with every string until when you stretch the string, it no longer goes out of tune. And by stretching your strings in like this, you're improving your tuning stability. If you don't stretch your strings in, they're going to be going out of tune very often. You'll play a few minutes, guitar will be out of tune it again, a few minutes, guitar's out of tune. So this really helps them to settle down much quicker. Okay, so that's now in tune. Strings are stretched in. The last thing we need to do is deal with these excess strings at the end. If you don't have any wire cutters, you can do this. You can make a loop. Come back through that loop. And then keep coming back through that loop. Until you get rid of all that slack. Then instead of having a big pointy bit of string sticking out, you have a little loop. And if you look at a lot of our old photos of the Beatles, a lot of old musicians, you'll see their headstocks looking like this. Okay, so that just means it's not to make this noise. You're not going to poke yourself in the eye. Now personally, I've got some wire cutters, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to chop all those off. So all my strings, being really careful not to cut through anything you shouldn't be cutting through. I'm leaving about 5mm of string on the headstock. Now, with this last little bit of string, it's a bit like a pin. If you're worried about cutting yourself, you can bend it out of the way. So personally, I wouldn't bother, I'd just leave it like that. But if you have some pliers, you can just bend that string so that it's pointing down towards the headstock, not pointing up. So you are not going to cut yourself on that string. Personally, I never bother with this step. I very rarely cut myself on the strings. I have done in the past, and you know, you learn the hard way, don't you? So now I'm just very careful around the headstock. Okay, so there we go. So at this end, we've got all the strings on the inside of the barrel. There's the barrel strings on the inside, 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 inside. If your strings are on the outside of the barrel, you need to unwind that string and wind it back on the right way. At this end, it should look like this. So all you can really see is the bridge pins, strings. There's nothing else going on there. If one of your bridge pins is sticking out, this one's sticking out a bit, you can just try and push it in. There you go. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope that I helped you to change the strings on your guitar.